Hello, biologists. So I hope you've been enjoying our discussion of our non-vascular plants and our seedless vascular plants. Before we discuss our seed-containing vascular plants, we're going to pause our plants and talk about fungi. In your textbook, fungi are discussed in chapter 31. So please use that as your reference for where a lot of this material is coming from. One thing that's important about fungi, even though they are sessile, they're attached to the ground, they are not plants. They are not doing photosynthesis. They do not have the same cell structure as plants. They're a unique kingdom. They're absorptive, heterotrophic eukaryotes. Those are 3 words you should be comfortable with. And if any of those are words that you do not remember, please stop and look them up. Pause right now and look them up. You're also welcome to come to my office hours and to send me emails. Probably for things that you're not understanding, an office hour visit is going to be a lot more effective and a better use of your time. So they are not doing photosynthesis. The way that fungi are getting their energy is they secrete digestive enzymes. Those digestive enzymes break down their food outside of their body, and then they absorb that. So as you see a mold growing on an orange or growing on a loaf of bread, it's secreting digestive enzymes, breaking down that loaf of bread or that orange peel, and bringing those nutrients, absorbing that into the fungal body. Or as you see a mushroom growing on a log, it's doing the same thing, secreting enzymes, digesting their food externally, and then absorbing that. Most fungi are going to have a mass of thread-like hyphae that make up a mycelium. That's what's showing in this inset here. And their hyphal cells are separated by cross walls, and the cross walls have pores that are large enough for ribosomes, mitochondria, and nuclei to cross. Sometimes there will be multinucleate cells without cross walls. They'll have a lot of nuclei within the same cell. And they also have a huge surface area that they secrete their digestive enzymes so they can absorb food. Some fungi are parasites. Here, this is ergot, which is a parasite of wheat plants. It can cause a hallucinatory disease called ergotism. This is a fungus growing on corn, which produces corn smut. And actually, although this fungus is technically parasitizing the corn smut is actually a delicacy in much of the world to eat. So you would pay a pretty penny to be able to eat that. In our fungal cells have a cell wall made of chitin. This is very different from our plants with their cell wall made of cellulose. And since fungi do not do photosynthesis, they're having to get their energy from somewhere else. Some fungi are going to become parasites. And so they get their nutrients at the expense of this living plant, or even at the expense of living animals. They can cause things like ringworm or jock itch. About 80% of plant diseases are caused by fungi. That's pretty significant. About 10 to 15% of the world's fruit harvest is lost each year to fungal attack. And there's a variety of fungi which include smuts and rusts that can infect grain crops. There are some fungi that are mycorrhizal fungi. This mycorrhizae is a symbiotic relationship between fungi and plant root cells. So instead of the fungal cells attacking the plant, they're actually working together in a symbiosis with the plant root cells. And they are present in nearly all vascular plants. If you were examining their root cells, you would be able to see fungal symbiosis with them. And this is beneficial for both the fungus and for the plant. The fungus will absorb phosphorus and other essential materials from the soil and makes it available to the plant. So the plant is benefiting from what the fungus is doing. Then the plant is producing sugars through photosynthesis, which nourishes the fungus. So the fungus is benefited by what the plant is doing. Fungi have a particularly complicated, in my opinion, life cycle. They can produce asexual spores. So here these are producing asexual spores that can germinate and form a new fungus, and it can multiply through asexual reproduction. However, you can have haploid hyphae which fuse, and you will get a heterokaryotic stage. As a heterokaryotic stage, the cell has two separate nuclei, genetically distinct nuclei. You'll have one nucleus that came from one of those hyphae and one nucleus that comes from the other hyphae. So it has these two separate, genetically different nuclei, which is what calls it heterokaryotic. So hetero meaning different, karyo meaning kernel nuclei. These heterokaryotic nuclei could eventually fuse. It could stay in this heterokaryotic stage for quite some time, but it could eventually fuse, and you have a short-lived diploid phase, and then that zygote will go through meiosis to produce more haploid spores to go right back into sexual reproduction. So fungus can do sexual and asexual reproduction. In the asexual reproduction, their spore-forming structures come up from haploid mycelia, and that mycelia will have either undergone the heterokaryotic stage or that have undergone neither the heterokaryotic stage nor meiosis. As many fungi can reproduce, I'm getting tongue twisted. Many fungi can reproduce sexually and also produce spores asexually. So let's go through these different types of fungi that we have. The kind of most basal level of fungus is a chytrid. Chytrids are the only fungi that have flagellated spores. They are the earliest branching lineage of fungi. They're common in lakes, ponds, and soils. And one kind of sad thing about chytrids, if you remember discussing amphibians, there's been a widespread decline of amphibians because of a fungus on their skin that makes it difficult for them to breathe. This chytrid is the type of fungus that is linked to that decline in amphibian species. Zygomycetes, or also known as zygote fungi, have this characteristic of a protective zygosporangium, and the zygotes are able to reproduce here, to produce haploid spores here by meiosis. Zygomycetes include bread molds, also molds that grow on peaches, strawberries, sweet potatoes, even some molds that can grow on people. So when you think of zygomycetes, you should think of molds. Glomeromycetes have a very distinct form of mycorrhizae. Their hyphae can invade the plant roots and form arbuscules. About 90% of plants have symbiotic partnerships with glomeromycetes. So when you think of these, really what you need to think of is plant symbiosis, mycorrhizae. This is the big thing that glomeromycetes do. Then basidiomycetes are club fungi. These are mushrooms. That's what you're going to think of when you think of basidiomycetes. These are mushrooms. They're also puffballs. Puffballs can actually kind of puff and give this little poof of, spores. And shelf fungi. So they're named because they have this club-shaped structure and called a basidium. They're important forest decomposers, and they include also some destructive plant parasites. Those rusts and smuts are basidiomycetes. Next are the ascomycetes. This would include morels, if you've been interested in eating this kind of mushroom delicacy. They form these sac-like structures called asci that reproduce their spores in sexual reproduction. Ascomycetes really live in marine, freshwater, and terrestrial habitats. They can go from individual little yeasts to these fancy morels and cup fungi. And some of them develop a symbiosis with algae or cyanobacteria. And when the fungus forms a symbiotic relationship with algae or cyanobacteria, it creates what's known as a lichen. So Ascomycetes, think of yeast, and think of morels and cup fungi. Think of lichens with Ascomycetes. So lichens, like we just said, are a combination of an algal cell or a bacterial cell. In this picture, it's an algal cell and a fungal hyphae. And they form this mutualistic association where the algal cell or the photosynthetic bacteria are producing the sugar, producing the food that nourishes both the fungus and the algae, whereas the fungal mycelium is going to help the algae absorb and retain water and minerals. Also, that fungal hyphae are going to be very important in connecting that lichen to the rock or the tree or whatever it's linking onto. That fungal portion provides kind of that hold fast. Lichens are important pioneers on new land where they can help form soils, and they are particularly sensitive to air pollution because they obtain minerals from the air. So sometimes lichens are used as a way to detect what level of air pollution is present in an area. Okay, so you should be able to compare and contrast the nutritional mode of fungi with plants and also really with people. How do life cycles of fungi and humans differ? Describe the importance of mycorrhizae both today and in the colonization of land. What feature of chytrids supports the hypothesis that they include members of basal fungal lineages? Ooh, I did give you the answer to this, although I didn't specifically tell you that that was the answer to this. So you may be able to figure it out from what we discussed. You may need to go back into your textbook for that one. And then how does form fit function in Ascomycetes and Basidiomycetes? Okay, my lovelies, that is it for this chapter. We will come back to chapter 30. I can't believe we're nearly done with this semester. I'm sure you are so excited to be finished soon. As always, come to office hours if you have any questions. Send me an email if you need to. I'm here, whatever you need. I will respond to your emails within probably 24 to 48 hours. Okay, see you later. Bye.